Quality, comfort, and grip at an affordable price. Whether it's our standard, pro, or elite socks, there's an option for everyone. Try a pair for yourself now at puregripsocks.com.
What we do here is go back.
Laceless football boots aren't necessarily an uncommon thing. However, most of the pros you'll see wearing laceless football boots are wearing football boots that are actually meant to be laceless. But then there's players like Vitinha, who insists on wearing laceless football boots, except the boots that he's wearing aren't actually meant to be laceless. Where of course he's been doing this for a little while now, but most recently, and more specifically, in the Champions League final, he wore the brand new Nike Mercurial Vapor 17 Elite without any laces at all, and needless to say, it went pretty well for him. Is he onto something, or is this an idea you should completely avoid? And really quickly before we keep going, if you're interested in the new Vapor 17 Elite, you can pick them up below their normal retail price via the first link down below. If you enjoy videos like this, don't forget to drop a like on this one, and if you appreciate the unsugar-coated, unsponsored, brutally honest opinions on this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2026. Where in this video, I want to answer three main questions. Question number one is, how does removing the laces change the fit, feel, and overall performance of the Vapor 17 compared to when you wear them with the laces as they were intended? Question number two, what does Nike's design team behind the new Mercurial, and more specifically the Vapor 17, think of wearing them as laceless football boots? And then number three, is this a good idea? AKA, should you be doing the same thing as Vitinha? Let's discuss. Starting with question number one, I think the best way to answer it is to do a quick breakdown of the Vapor 17's upper design as a whole, where of course this is Nike's lightest football boot that they've ever put out, which also makes it arguably their thinnest Mercurial of all time. And as you can see by the structure of the upper and the shape that it's taken on after a bit of wear, it's basically melting. It still holds a surprising amount of structure. This Atom Knit material is very impressive in terms of its tensile strength as a whole, but when you remove the laces, which of course I've done, you're not necessarily getting that tension on the upper. And because the central portion of the upper is really stretchy, elasticated Flyknit all the way down, yes, it gives you that one-piece enclosure that allows these boots to stay on your feet without any laces, but it also has that freedom to stretch quite significantly as you're playing in the boots, where, long story short, and this should be pretty obvious, the lockdown, responsiveness, and stability that you get without the laces pulling everything and holding it together is significantly worse. I will say this much, however, the boots did feel more secure on my feet than I was expecting, and I think that's less to do with the one-piece enclosure and more to do with the fact that this does have a relatively slim, tight, Mercurial-esque fit, as you would expect from one of their top-end speed boots, and the heel in particular, with its very pinched shaping to it, does a really good job of keeping your heel pretty secure, all things considered, again, without the laces pushing your heel down and back into the football boots. With that said, from a stability and certainly safety perspective, I could definitely feel my foot shifting around on the base of the boot quite significantly when it came to harder cuts and quick changes of direction. The stability is definitely nowhere near as good with the laces removed, and certainly if you're prone to ankle injuries or you want to reduce your own risk of injury, I would strongly recommend, again, using the boots with the laces, so all the tensile strength of that adamant material is able to hold your foot on the base of the sole and not have it slide from side to side, because that unexpected sliding and movement is where you're going to have those moments of instability where you can legitimately roll your ankle or perhaps something even worse. And then one last thing in regards to feel, because I think a big reason why a lot of people think removing the laces is a good idea is because they're going to have a cleaner touch on the ball. And yes, technically removing the laces eliminates some bulk across the top of the foot, but do you really feel that when playing in the boots? In my experience and opinion, no, you don't. Where again, with the laces removed, the overwhelming feeling that I have with this boot versus wearing them with laces is how much less stable and less secure, and to a certain extent, less safe they feel on feet. Where, long story short, if you want the best objective performance characteristics from your Vapor 17s, wearing them with the laces tied securely is definitely the best way to get maximum performance. Which leads us perfectly into question number 2, and that is, what does Nike think of Vitinha wearing one of their flagship speed boots, specifically the one focused around agility, without any laces? And as you guys may have seen on the channel over the last couple of weeks, I had the very unique opportunity of spending some time around the people at Nike, specifically the lead designer, as well as one of the brilliant minds from the Nike innovation team. And over that span, I asked more questions than I can possibly remember, and honestly, I can't believe they weren't completely annoyed with me by the end of this trip, but I did get some really cool insight on the boots in general, but also I did ask specifically about this situation. What I didn't ask, however, and I'm not even sure I would have necessarily gotten an answer, is does Vitinha get any custom things done to his boots to make them more wearable as laceless boots, if you will? And of course, they would be custom made to his feet, which a lot of big name pros are going to get, which would also go a long way in terms of how closely the upper is going to wrap your foot, which matters a lot with any laceless football boot. However, what I can tell you is the answer that I got in regards to wearing any of Nike's football boots without the laces is that none of them are designed for that purpose. Or at the very least, none of the tech, none of the materials, none of the design is focused around providing structure without that tension from the lacing system. The key word in that being system, where the sole plate is connected to the upper, which wraps the foot, and all of it comes together when you tie those laces tight. That adjustability is what allows you to get the best possible fit, and through the best possible fit and locking it all in place, that's when you're going to get all of the performance characteristics that were intended in the base design. When you remove the laces and don't have anything locked in, then you're definitely losing out on all of the intended performance, stability, responsiveness, whatever it may be. In the case of a speed boot, I would say those are kind of the main ones. And certainly when you wear these without the laces, you definitely feel like they're not as responsive, they're not as secure, they're not as stable, and to a certain extent, not as safe. In other words, I got the impression that from Nike's perspective, it's not their favorite that Vitinha wears these boots without the laces, but at the same time, they're also a brand that wants to prioritize the comfort of their athletes, and if this is how Vitinha feels most comfortable playing, then they're not going to stop him. And again, there's no denying that it's working for him. Which leads us into the third and final question, and that is, should you wear your Mercurial Vapor 17s without the laces? Well, if you want my opinion, after experiencing this football boot both with and without laces, I can tell you for a fact that the performance, the lockdown, the stability, everything that makes this an amazing football boot gets worse when you pull the laces out. And I've said this same thing before with other football boots that certain pros have removed the laces from, and the general thing that I hear in the comment section is that I removed the laces from my football boots because it's more comfortable. And I do understand that if you don't necessarily like a super tight fit, yes, technically without the laces, the boots will fit looser. To that, I would personally question why you're buying a Mercurial Vapor in the first place, given that it is always going to be one of the tighter fitting football boots that you can buy, period. But I would also make the argument that you can loosen the laces and then not tie them up as tight as possible and still get the benefits of the upper and everything working as one system once you've locked in that tension after tying the laces, still achieve a comfortable fit, but again, not lose out on all of that performance. And perhaps even less important than the performance, because at the end of the day, who's to say that these boots are going to make you play better than any other ones, but at the very least, the lockdown and the stability, aka the safety, is just going to be significantly better with the laces in the boots as they were intended, even if they're not necessarily tied super tight. In other words, can you wear the Vapor 17 as a laceless boot? Yes, but should you do it? Probably not. Of course, if you already have the boots, removing the laces is completely free to do if you really want to try it out, but then don't be mad when you have to relace them, which can be a little bit tricky, although I do have a tutorial up on YouTube if you need some help with that. Thanks for watching.